What's up everybody? In this video I'm going to compare two budget devices, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A12. Both of these phones offer great value, but there are differences in these devices. I'm going to go through all the specs. Everything you need to know is going to be in this video, but towards the end I will tell you which one you should pick, which one offers a better value. Let's go ahead. So both of these devices were released around the same time. The A32 5G was released in January of 2021. The A12 was released in December of 2020. Now, one big difference between these devices is that the A32 offers 5G connectivity. The A12 is only 4G LTE. Now, it's not a big difference because 5G isn't everywhere, but if you are in a 5G coverage area, obviously that's going to be better for you. You get faster speeds, better video quality, just everything feels a little bit snappier. But the A12 is perfectly fine with 4G LTE. Most things still work perfectly on those speeds. Overall size, these are almost exactly the same in size. 6.4 inches tall, 3 inches wide, 0.36 inches in thickness. So you pick these phones up, they're gonna feel overall the same size, exactly the same weight, 7.2 ounces. So you can feel a little bit of heft, which is good, and I'm going to tell you in a little bit why they weigh so much. For the build quality, they also are exactly the same. Got the glass front, plastic back, plastic frame. These phones are pretty much all plastic all around, and let me tell you why. One of the biggest things about these phones is going to be the price. Very value-driven devices. Now, the A32 5G can be had for less than $300. And if you get it prepaid on Metro, for example, here in the US, you can get this phone for $30. You can get a 5G, $30 great device. The A12 you can get it for cheaper. You can get it for less than 180. You can routinely find it for 150 unlocked. And for the prepaid way, you can get this phone for free. So you can get, there's a difference of $100 between these devices unlocked, and there's a difference of $30 if you get them on prepaid. If you could get these devices on prepaid, that's the way to go, because you can get it at a really cheap price, $30 for a 5G phone. But if you're really strapped for cash, or you just don't need 5G really, for the most part, the A12 will serve perfectly fine, but both offer extreme value for the price. So the displays are exactly the same, 6.5 inches, so a pretty decent sized screen. It's the same thing found on flagship models. There's 720 HD displays, so they're kind of on the lower end. They're not a $1,000 worthy screen, but that's okay at this price point. It's not too bad. It's just on the lower end. The PPI translates to 270 PPI. You got minimal bezel, not too bad. You got around 82% screen to body ratio on both of these devices. For the software, both of these are running Android 11, which is currently the newest version of Android with Samsung UI on top. The software that Samsung offers is very great. It's the same type of software that's found on flagship Galaxy devices. There's a lot of options and you can customize it. There's a lot of features that aren't found on other versions of Android, such as stock. So when you have these devices, if you like Samsung and you like to do a lot of different stuff, this is the software for you. You will feel right at home. And it's the same type of software as if you were on a flagship Samsung Galaxy. So the software is very similar on these devices. Both are running on MediaTek processors. One is the 720 on the 5G, and you got the P35 on the A12. These are on the lower end of processors. They aren't Qualcomm Snapdragon processors. You're not going to get $1,000 processors. That's one of the biggest things that keep a low budget phone, cheaper phones, the price low is usually the processor. But don't get me wrong, although these aren't going to be super speedy like the $1,000 devices, these for the average person, they're going to be just a little bit slower than the flagships, but they'll be totally usable. You could run all your apps pretty much the same. They just open up a little bit slower. You just gotta be a little bit patient, but for the most part, unless you put these head to head with the flagships, you aren't gonna see too much of a disappointment in speed and processing power. As for the internal storage, the A32 starts off at 64 gigs. The A12, depending on where you get it, if you get the unlocked model, you can get it for 64. gigs. But if you get it either on prepaid, just be careful where you get it. Double check. Some of them are being sold at 32 gigs of internal storage. Obviously try to get it at 64 gigs because you'll get the 4 gigs of RAM instead of the 3 on the A12. But overall, the A32 5G seems to have a more consistent, bigger storage and more RAM. 4 gigs and 3 gigs of RAM is perfectly okay for a normal person using every day-to-day apps in the background. Combine that with the processor, regular apps should run fine, like your YouTube, your messaging, your maps, your Robinhood, all your regular, social media apps and browsing the web, all that stuff will work just fine. One good bonus on both of these devices is that they both offer micro SD card slots, so you can expand the storage very cheaply. That's something that's not offered on flagships anymore, but these two budget phones have it, so that's a big thumbs up. Now for the cameras, the A32 5G has a quad camera setup, 48 megapixel main, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 5 megapixel macro, 2 megapixel depth. The A12 has a 48 megapixel main, 5 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro, 2 megapixel depth. They're pretty much almost the same quality for the most part. The thing that stands out more is that you can take 4K video on the A32 5G, and you got 1080p video on the A12. Neither of these phones' cameras are flagship quality, but these are still very good for the average user to take a quick picture or video and send it to your friends on social media or on an app such as messaging. Selfie camera, A32 has a 13 megapixel camera, A12 8 megapixel camera. Both shoot selfie video at 1080p, which you'll get a pretty decent selfie video or picture. Another bonus is that both of these phones have a headphone jack, which is awesome. Another feature that's not found on flagships, but it is found on these two budget devices. You can connect your mic, your headphones, or connect it to your car via aux cord to listen to music, for example. So a big thumbs up on both of these budget devices for that. Now, connecting to your wireless devices won't be a problem with either of these phones. They both offer Bluetooth 5.0, so that means you can connect your wearables, your smartwatch, your wireless headphones, your speakers, all that good stuff will connect to both of these devices just fine. The NFC is offered on both of these devices, but it depends on which market you get it and if it's prepaid or unlocked, so be careful before you buy if that's something you care about. And both of these offer USB Type-C port for charging. Both the A32 5G and the A12 offer a side-mounted fingerprint reader, which is very reliable to unlock your device. And last but not least is the battery. Battery is very impressive on both of these phones. They have the exact same 5,000 milliamp battery, which will give you around 2 days of battery life. Very impressive. Flagship phones don't even have the consistency of having 5,000 milliamp batteries or bigger. It's usually the lower end to mid-range that are very impressive in battery life, and these do not disappoint. They also come with fast charging at 15 watts, so even if you do manage to need a charge, you will get right up and going. These batteries are awesome. The battery life is one of the biggest selling points of both of these devices. So I've gone all over the specs. Pretty much everything they need to know has been discussed, but the one thing left is which one of these devices is better? Which one should you get? Which one is worth it here in 2021? Well, I'm happy to say that both of these are great values, but the big one to me that I will choose is the A32 5G, just because of the fact that if you were to get these on prepaid, it's only $30 for the A32 5G versus getting it for free on the A12. And going from the jump to LTE to 5G is not big right now, but later on in a couple of months, maybe in a year, and you still want to use this phone, 5G will be there. There's so many similarities between these two devices. The camera's probably a little bit better on the A32 5G. You're going to get a lot of the same thing. The battery is nice. If you don't want to spend any money and get the A12 on prepaid, that's probably the route to go. You got micro SD card slot, you got a headphone jack. The biggest downfall of both of these phones is probably going to be the processor. That's probably the only thing that's kind of lacking. Maybe in the screen department, if you care about resolution and stuff like that, and pixel per inch, that might be an issue. But I think for the most part, these phones show that you don't need a flagship $1,000 phone to do everything. These will do the job for you. They got several cameras in the back. The battery life is awesome. I can't stress that enough. They have a nice big screen, and just everything about these devices screams great value. But if I had to choose, I'll pick the A32 5G. It's just a little bit more contemporary. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.